Hey, did you know you can own for less than your current rent? We can help at savewithconrad.com. Stop throwing your money away on rent. You don't know any wealthy renters. Start building wealth for your family with my family at savewithconrad.com. Hey, it's Conrad the Mortgage Guy, and you're listening to My World. And of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famer, the greatest professional wrestler of all time, your friend and mine, Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff, how are you, man?
Oh, Connie, how you doing over there, man? What a weekend! What a week! I'm waiting for you to add a couple of little tools in your toolbox over there, or toys in your toy box, maybe. But said better than that. But what a week, man! Just landed. I don't even know where to start, but I do want to give a shout.
Let's start with Cody. He just turned 19. We're proud of him. It's awesome that he was here to celebrate with us. Wait, where is the Cody running? Is he still down in the dumps? Because when I saw him this past week, he was running that yapper at me, talking about how Alabama sucks and Pitt is better. And I'm like, you're not even a Pitt fan. And then I remembered he meant the Steelers, and the Packers said, happy birthday, Cody. Put your head down and get back on down to Nashville.
So while we're on this call, right, real quick, how can I do this? Because I'm stabbering all over here, but Silva, I'm sending you a photo real quick. And if you don't mind throwing it up here, I will tell you. So he took this morning, Conrad, he took it hard. I'll just say what a beautiful weather we had in Acrisure Stadium. It was a great time. It was, but you know what, Conrad, I yesterday, right after halftime, I said, I'm going to share this on the podcast because Packer fans travel. And
all right, let's back up. Jeff's son, Cody, turned 19 for his 19th birthday. He wanted to go see the Steelers, his very favorite team, play in Pittsburgh. The Packers came to town, waxed that ass. The king, the queen, and Cody were all there. Pick it up from there.
I appreciate that little backstory. It's good filling in the blanks. Well, and the other thing that adds to it is that Aaron Rodgers, if you don't know, he played for the Packers 17 years, a long time, super successful in all this. So a lot of Rodgers fans in the house, but I got to say this, Packer fans travel well. There was at least, I'm going to go 30, maybe 40% Packer fans in the stadium. I mean, you could audibly hear very loud "Go Pack Co" chants. So I thought that, but Conrad, it reminded me of going to some old wrestling. I mean, you talk about being the real heels. The Packers were the heels. It depended on who you rooted for, but the emotion into it, I just like, man, this is, I mean, there was dog cussing and the people in front of us, and Karen was giving me different looks. And I said, they're into it. This bad calls. And of course the officials, just like the blind headed ref that doesn't see the hot tag, but the intensity was there. But boy, oh boy, when the tide turned and the Pack started making some long ball plays, Cody was, I'll just say that it was a tough Uber ride back to the hotel. He went to bed. He was down and out. He's like, we're going to ruin the division. We're going to blow the division. He got up this morning, still down in the dumps. And so I went downstairs to get me a coffee and do a little reading earlier this morning. And then as I'm reading, I see a text from Cody, and he sends me a picture. And the picture says it all.
Happy birthday, Cody. We hope you got everything you hoped for.
You like the bling bling? He put the bling bling back on this morning with his Steelers shirt, but that was that's his mood, man. He took it hard. He really he took it real hard, but that's all right. We had a great time. Karen had a good time. It was fun to see it all. And Bret Michaels, I didn't know he was of Pittsburgh, formerly of Poison. He was the halftime show. He did have the people rocking, so it was good, man. It was a lot of fun. Wish we could have got a W for Cody. He even conned me into wearing Steelers jersey, so I had to support my brother and Aaron Rodgers. So he's up there in age, so gotta root for those kind of guys, the vets, if you will. But no, it was a lot of fun. It was a whole lot of fun. Cody's still reeling from the loss, but I said, buddy, you got the Colts this weekend. You better turn it around. You got Cassio and brother Mike Dawkins. It's their team coming into Acrisure. So it was fun. Appreciate you let me share that today, Connie, but it was fun.
Absolutely. Glad you had fun there. How did everything go at the Summer Ball Summit?
Yeah, you know what? And I do want to give shout out to Golden Rule Entertainment, specifically JB Tool. I told him I'd say this, but man, Conrad, next year I'm not going to ask you. I'm going to tell you, you got to go. But it was so refreshing. What was it? 22 different teams, 9 or 10 different leagues, owners, GMs, marketing folks, all in one room. And it's pretty cool to throw around different ideas, what works and what's not working, not just on revenue streams, but fan experience, just across the board in the event business. It was so refreshing to kind of bounce ideas around and hear. We had folks from the Titans, the Sounds, all across the country. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. So very well-run event next year, Conrad. I'm going to try to get you to speak there. Get it on your calendar, but it was good. Shout out to those guys. And yes, very, very well done event in Music City last Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Now on to Thursday, Connie. You got to be there.
Yeah, man, it was a long day, but we made it happen. And what a day it was. I know that you were excited. We had the big pig fest in Hendersonville that I think was born out of the pandemic. And somehow, some way, the city talked you into wrestling for the very first time in your hometown. And I think we've got some photos from that night. Tell us about it, Jeff.
Oh, wow. Man, I don't think when I said yes to this many months ago that it just came off in so many ways. And I'll let you get into the details on how we're going to kind of roll out the footage on it. But man, top to bottom, Satnam Singh, you can see the photo there. Jay Lethal came into town. Concession stand brawl, the micro match, we had it all. But how this event came together, and I heard actually the almost the real DNA of it, because yes, it was born out of the pandemic and a barbecue cooking contest. But Mary's Magical Playground is right beside this, Conrad. I don't know if you could see it, but that is who one of the 4 nonprofits raising money for. So there was at the time a little girl, she's growing up now, but she's 7 at the time, and wanted to figure out Mary's Magical Playground, got flooded. And she's like, how can we raise some money? So her idea of how can we raise money, and knowing that the traditional Hendersonville kind of one of the big fundraisers is letting kids go off and on all the tour buses that are off tour. And so turned it into a barbecue cooking contest. I went up Saturday afternoon, Conrad, and watched the awards given out, well over 50 teams, and best ribs, best pulled pork, best desserts, overall, all kind of awards. It was really, really cool. People's choice. But man, what a 3-day event. And I could not tell you how many compliments, but made my heart feel good because I think the old man would be very pleased with it. And I was asked earlier in the day in some the documentary that's going to kind of come out on it. What's your thoughts? And I said, I knew it would kind of bubble up day of, but man, I really, really wanted this to come off good, something that my dad would be proud of, because he is the one, 1972, decided to move out to Hendersonville when it was, God, it's a tiny town. The road he moved on is a main drag now, but it was a gravel road back in 72. So I think we would have done him proud. What you say, Connie? You got to experience.
It was really cool, man. I'll admit it was cooler than I expected temperature wise, but what a presentation. Shout out to Andy and the rest of the crew for putting together something really, really special. And what a loaded card. You had some of the top stars from AEW, the up and comers like, Adam Priest. And then behind the scenes, you've got one of the real movers and shakers, the power brokers of AEW, if you will, QT Marshall. And he had some of his finest from 1FW. And it was really, really cool to see. And I don't think fans ever get tired of seeing Satnam Singh. Like,
good Lord,
I know people make fun of Vince McMahon's whole airport eye test, but Lord, Satnam gets everybody's attention. And you kind of forget just how great and how natural Jay Lethal is in the ring until you see him in person. But I want to give some praise, and I know I'm going to get some hate tweets on this. I think QT Marshall, from an internet wrestling community, the IWC standpoint, he might be the most underrated, underappreciated in-ring guy around. Like, I've seen him work 2 indie shows now, and both times I'm like, man, this guy gets it, doesn't he?
Why the heck do you think, the guy who was booking the Jeff Jarrett's All-Star Super Slam put him right at the top of the card?
I have no doubt. Hey, I wanted to ask you that. That was my big takeaway is, does old Double J have the itch? You know, you hadn't been promoting for quite a while now. You've been on the other side of things, and you know, you got to sort of stretch your arms and limbs a little bit here. You getting the itch to get back into the promoting game, you think, Jeff?
I would be lying if I didn't tell you how much I enjoyed the process. But it is such night and day. I call them one-offs. One-offs, you don't really have a crew that you're the priority. And I get that. I went into that completely understanding that, and everybody else has day jobs and other jobs and side jobs and all this, and I'll get to you when I get to you and all that. But for the most part, everybody came together. But kind of seeing how the event rolled up, and you know, the on sale, the VIP sold out in the first 24 hours, and as things were rolling on, and the tickets, and you know, Andy was telling me earlier in the day, Jeff, we're gonna have over 1,500 people here, and I'm like, Andy, that's stretching it, bud. That's stretching it. But when you see, I believe, you know, that type of event, I just think people were thoroughly entertained. You know, I've been in the gym since then on Friday and Saturday, and been around some folks. Actually, as you know, just landed back from Pittsburgh watching that game. I saw a guy at Baggage, and he said, hey, man, I saw everything on Facebook. Seems like your event couldn't have come off any better. So there was an awareness to it, you know, the advertising. So short answer, Conrad, well, hell yeah. When you do something like that, it kind of gets the creative juices going, the promoter juices going. And so, hate to say it, Conrad, but yes, tried to figure out, and the sponsorships. I mean, Dude Wipes being the
Title sponsor.
Couldn't get the title sponsor, but you know, Hiller's a plumbing company around. They did the turnbuckle pads, and we had, you know, 2 or 3 dealerships and all kinds of different sponsors that were part of it. That was one of the things when Andy was doing the closing ceremonies on Saturday, Conrad, he said, I can't name them all because there's 90 of them. 90 sponsors were involved with the 3-day Pig Fest. And that's where you just go, okay. You know, and this is in Sumner County, a bedroom community of Nashville. So these type events are a lot of fun, and it's I can't just say it's wrestling because it's super entertaining. The micro match, 25 Cent and Dylan tore the house down. To me, it was just a really, really entertaining show, and that's one of the things I really love about it is that if you're going to come to, I'll call it one of my shows or one of the shows I'm a part of, you're going to see diversity in the styles, and I think that just goes such a long way with entertaining the fans.
Can I tell you what my favorite segment was that you might not guess, or do you want to guess?
Favorite segment? Will you say segment or match? Because Big Ben Bishop is a scene stealer.
He stole the show, man. Big Ben Bishop. I listen. We've all seen his trolling videos online on social. I've seen some of his matches. But the way he set up everything that happened at your event, I am a Big Ben fan for life now. Like, I'm really surprised that guy is not on TNA or MLW, or he needs to be on television on a regular basis. Like, he's got the size, he's got the ideas, he's clearly there to have a good time and there to entertain. I don't know, man. I was really impressed with Big Ben Bishop.
He does it. What's paradoxical about this, Conrad, and man, me and you will probably have some offline conversations, is that he is in a digital space, super entertaining, but the hardcore IWC fan, that's not their cup of tea. And I'm not saying it should be, because everybody has different taste and all that. But, and Conrad, I think, and I'll say this publicly, I hope I've said it privately numerous times, I appreciate you folks. Conrad started in Birmingham, Alabama early last Thursday and worked more than half a day and jumped in his car and fought traffic. Anyway, I appreciate you being there, but you missed the first appearance of Big Ben because right after the opening match, he came from the opposite of the entrance and then stepped over the railing. It caught people so off guard. Eric Young, Jake Painter run the opening match, tore the house down. Big babyface win, if you will. And when Big Ben stepped over and got into it, it was just like, I think it caught people in shock. And for those that didn't follow what he was doing online, and I know I'll say the majority of people didn't. He was dressed in that silly outfit, but people immediately got, here's the story. He wants on the car. Anyway, he's a storyteller. And I'm not sure that completely jives, not just being a storyteller, but he's an entertainer. Boy, oh boy, I hate to say, in a different platform, different setting. I agree with you.
Let me just say this. If you're an independent promoter and you're looking for somebody for your next show, book Big Ben Bishop.
I'd like to say Adam Priest.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Jake Painter. Names. Jake's a hell of a worker. I think the card had multiple folks that go, oh shit, Colby Cowan, Colby Carter, local guy. I thought that 5-way was fantastic. So yeah, I was really pleased with how everything came out. And that's something as a, I guess you could say as a promoter, I wanted to make sure I had my ear to the audience and listen to the feedback. Yeah, my morning cardio Saturday morning had a couple of folks as we were doing it. I asked them, did my focus group, hey, what was your favorite? Not one guy said the same thing. And if you follow me on socials, you'll see that 25 Cent was in the house, Connie. And why was he lives south of Nashville. Why was he up north of Nashville on Saturday morning? Why not? He won the UFC guest pass and he redeemed it Saturday morning. So shout out 25 Cent. Appreciate you making the drive up again.
I got to say, Cole looks like a television wrestler already.
Colby?
Yeah. Colby Carter looks like one already.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I thought the 5-way, Adam.
5-ways are challenging. I get that.
How to shoot train.
Harder. Like it's only a matter of time before Tyler Shoop is a name that everybody recognizes. But I think right now my takeaway, and obviously there's plenty of praise to pass around. Big Ben Bishop, man. If you're an independent promoter, you won't regret it. Like that dude, he gets the entertainment aspect of pro wrestling. I'll just say that.
Well, and I'll say this. Can I vent just for a second?
Please do.
No, I shouldn't say that. And because I am super grateful. I am. One of the reasons I was a little bit late, Connie, was I got a text and then a call right after it. Hey man, can I get on next year's show? And he was dead serious. And I'm like, oh, okay. Now I'm grateful for that, but can I get on the show? Not, hey man, I've got an idea to do this. I've got an idea to do that. Here's how I can help next year. Well, next year is not even a guarantee. I don't know that they aren't going to do it. I'm saying that, but the reason I bring that up is Big Ben is going to help sell tickets. That's my only point. I bring that idea up is that Big Ben does more work before he gets to the show than most talent do the entire run. That is, oh, I'm preaching. But Conrad, we've said it many, now it's getting into years, not just months. The independent star that doesn't have the tools in the toolbox to promote your event prior to getting there, you're just barking up the wrong tree. You're in the wrong business almost.
Yeah, I mean, I know nobody wants to hear this, but respectfully, there's lots of independent wrestlers that you could book to have a good match. It's who's going to help put butts in seats, who's going to help promote, who's going to help make the event bigger. Like if you just want to wrestle in front of empty folding chairs, there's lots of places you can do that. But if you want to wrestle in front of warm bodies, you got to help get them there. And the reason, some of these guys make the big money that you hear about, whether it's WWE or AEW, is because in theory, when fans see their name on a poster, there's an emotional attachment from the fans that says, oh, I want to open my wallet to go see that guy. And otherwise you're just a name on a poster. But if nobody's emotionally attached, they're not going to open their wallet. People buy emotionally and they justify logically. And If they're not emotionally invested in you, it won't matter. And that's one of the reasons I keep hammering the Big Ben Bishop thing, because he got people emotionally invested. And I know some of it's silly, and that's the idea. It's supposed to be fun. And I think sometimes the internet wrestling community gets so caught up on banger after banger, they forget that, there's a whole lot of fun to be had in wrestling if you'll just ease up and let it be fun. And he gets it. And I thought, man, for that audience on that night, it couldn't have been any better. I was really impressed with his stuff in person.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. I would say one more comment, but I'll leave you up on the soapbox by yourself.
Hey, let me ask you though, you mentioned earlier, and we haven't really shared this. You said it'll be in the documentary. What's going on with that?
So, well, heck, Conrad, you know, part of the story. The city came to me because you like to always make sure I do the backstory. And so when I said yes, I had no thoughts at all to stream this thing, like zero thought. And I kind of stood through there. But over the last 96, 72 hours before the event, you, among others, hey, Jeff, how are you going to kind of capture this? Because 3 of the 4 daughters were in town. Youngest is playing ball. So Cody was going to be there. Obviously, Karen's mom. Hey, this is kind of special. You've never wrestled there. My stepmom, she was going to come out. The mayor, just all the different folks. How are you going to capture this? I said, oh, man, iPhone footage. I didn't really think too deep about that. And then as kind of the hours got closer, and then okay, there's one of the best shooters around, and then not the devil, Kevin Sullivan. Can't say that anymore, but Kevin Sullivan, the production whiz kid. He ain't no kid, but anyway, just kind of the multiple chats on, all right, should we document this? And then of course you start with, hey man, let's just kind of get the match. And then you go, okay, well, the other 6, 7 matches are going to be really good. Let's get that. And then, well, Conrad, you know where I'll let you explain it. You're better than this because you now kind of know for the most part, but it went from 1 match to all 8 matches, and then the event, and then Pig Fest. And then, hey, what about the day of? Because I was in San Antonio last Wednesday night when I landed, cameras were there. And so we really documented from the time I got home from San Antonio until the night was over and I got back on the tour bus. So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing how all that rolls out in some shape, form, or fashion. But I think it's me, so I sound biased, but it is the essence of one of the questions, how it was framed was, professional wrestling is what you do, Jeff. And then it was framed a couple of different ways. And then the reality is, yes, it's what I do and what my dad did, and what my grandmother did, but it's really who we are. And so I think that is what is going to be captured in the documentary.
I can't wait to see it. I thought it would be historical footage that you would want to have one day, and that your fans would want to see one day, and certainly your family would want to watch one day. I mean, here you are rounding the bases on 40 years of pro wrestling, and this is the only time you've ever wrestled in your hometown. I did feel like, for history's sake, we should document it. Shout out to Sully and shout out to Mr. Peak and all involved who helped make that happen. But can't wait to see it. You guys will get a sneak peek, I'm sure, in the coming weeks here. But all right, all your favorite NBA players are back, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is the place to bet on NBA stars this season. New customers bet just $5 and get 3 months of NBA League Pass, plus score $300 if your bet wins. It's paid in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code MyWorld. That's code MyWorld. Bet $5 and get 3 months of League Pass, plus $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 1-888-789-777 or visit ccp.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Pass-through of per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. NBA League Pass auto renews until canceled. Additional terms at dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Right now, I think we should jump into today's show.
Oh boy.
But before we get into our topics, because we've got a lot of anniversaries of kind of notable things that happened in your career, I wanted to ask you, if you've had a chance with all your travels to keep up with the Russo NWA Not So Fast, My Friend discussion. Have you seen that?
So I worked on the flight home, but and I just kind of scrolled, and then one thing led to another. But I know that we've discussed ICP.
Whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop. Fago. That's right. Yeah, that's right. I popped you when you said, yeah, I'm a juggalo from way back. But I have had for years, 25 years, mad respect for what they have done with their career, in that their brand of music went so deep. And the Asylum days, when, hey, you're going to book ICP, they're bringing the juggalos. And when you have not 10, 20, but in the Nashville Sports Arena, the old Asylum, you end up having 100, 125 people that can make a shitload of noise. I've always respected the hell. And then I saw Joe at a Triple Mania a couple of years ago, and we've always kind of stayed in contact through the years. But when I heard the dates didn't work out coordinated, I was going to be on one of their, I'll call it tapings, if you will. But man, gosh, Conrad, I guess that was maybe Friday or Saturday when I saw the Meltzer comment that he commented that, in essence, if Russo was going to TNA, that may be notable, but since he's going to NWA, big deal. It's kind of took a jab, or he did take a jab at Russo, and then I thought took an even bigger jab at the NWA, which I'm like, okay, it is what it is. But man, however it went down, you may be able to clarify, but Russo and ICP and the Juggalo Wrestling, he's going to be riding. Conrad, I think, no doubt, love him or hate him, people will at least tune in a little bit. I don't know what the numbers, and I don't know what your baseline is, but he stirred up some interest. So let's see how that plays out. It'll be interesting for sure. And again, I mean, you being the wrestling junkies we are, we watch everything. It is like EB says, better than, lesser than, or different than. It's going to be different than. I promise you that.
I want to encourage you, if you see the Insane Clown Posse bringing Juggalo Championship Wrestling to your town, JCW, you should go check it out. It is fun.
Yeah,
I know that sometimes people take wrestling very, very seriously, and I'm not saying there won't be seriously good matches there, but it is an environment that I think everybody should see a wrestling show in at least once. So I encourage you, go out of your way to see GCW, and
have you
tell
been
the boys that we said whoop whoop.
Have you been?
Oh, yeah, of course.
I just make sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm down with the clown.
That's an experience in and of itself. So professional wrestling plus the Juggalos, it's to a whole nother level. Yes, it's not for everybody, but neither is fill in the blank on different brands. So
let me ask you, Jeff, have you ever had a trunk full of Fago?
Whoop, whoop.
No, I'm asking a legitimate question. Have you had a trunk full of Fago before?
A trunk full?
Yeah.
Well, I punted about 25, 30 liters off a stage in one night before.
But like between towns back in the day, did you ever fill the trunk full of Fago?
Can't say that I did that.
Did you ever have a car full of fat bitches?
What is today's topic?
Today we're going to be talking about the open door policy from the CWA. What a deep cut this is. 38 years ago this week, we're talking November 2nd, 1987. There was a CWA card, your dad's promotion, right there at the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis. And you lost the Mid-America title to Jimmy Jack Funk. Now, previously, Jimmy Jack Funk had been in the building as Jesse Barr, but if you're watching along with us here on YouTube, you see Jimmy Jack Funk was the name that he used in the World Wrestling Federation. So, fresh off of WWF TV, your dad is going to book Jesse Barr as Jimmy Jack Funk. And this is a part of I think what was heralded at the time as the open door policy, meaning wink, wink. Wrestlers from other promotions are welcome here in the CWA. I guess technically they allowed that in World Class in Dallas and Mario Savoldi's ICW in the Northeast. They all claim to have an open door policy. And well, heck, once upon a time out in Oregon, Billy Jack Haynes started his own Oregon Wrestling Federation in '88. And he would try to get people to believe that he had some sort of partnership with the World Wrestling Federation, since they both shared Wrestling Federation in their name. But tell me about this. What did your dad think about this? Because this sort of predates like the invasion angle of the NWO, but we're certainly hinting around at the fact that, hey, this is an active WWF wrestler and he's here in Memphis and he's challenging for a belt. Do you think it worked? I mean, you're in the middle of that wrestling this fellow. What'd you think of that creative in '87? You're obviously wet behind the ears, a little green, as they like to say in the biz, but now you got a little bit of hair on you. What'd you think about it?
So God, this is an interesting topic, and I popped when I looked at the research because, man, this is a look. You can go back 50s, 60s. I don't know about 50s. I'm not the expert, but the invasion angle, and obviously everybody knows about the NWO, is done differently. And if you take Hogan out of that, I don't know that we're still talking about it today. It's successful, but the biggest icon in the business and all that, North versus South and the invasion anyway. But through the territory days, there have always been invasion angles that for the most part always worked. In Memphis, my dad did it multiple times through the years, but you always had kind of different. I'm taking over, new sheriff in town, we're going to run things my way. And Jimmy Hart actually did the first family. Anyway, there's been different variations, but so this was in essence kind of and obviously when the heels come in and invade, they're the antagonist, if you will. This was out of the same playbook, but this is, I don't want to say a counter programming, but in a way it was Mania 1 had happened, Mania 2 had happened, Mania 3 had happened, WCW and the Turner Broadcasting, they're seeing. So as a positioning model, if you will, Mole Man and other promoters around the country, but what it was positioned to be, here comes Jimmy Jack Funk, and his, he comes from a Art Bar, Beetlejuice, and his dad was Sandy Bar and out in the Portland scene. And so, my dad working with the territory promoters through the years and the relationships and all that. But Jesse called and he was, had finished up at WWF. But so how do we put a little steam on the guy coming through the door? Well, you make him obviously a heel, but you have him as an open door policy, but he's coming in kicking the shit out of the quote unquote promoter's son and one of their favorites. And so it was a way to put heat on the heel, that not only was he doing a dastardly leave, he's coming from that bad promotion named WWF. So he trying to put heat on the outside promotions, and obviously as we just talked about, the emotional connection and good versus evil. But anyway, I loved it. I thought it was a little different thing. And the people did know, okay, hey, that guy, because, back in the territory days, you fabricate stories. Hey, I've been out West and I've won this championship. And Pat Patterson went to Brazil and won the Intercontinental title. But, you fabricate in a lot of ways where this wrestler had been. Now you had some validity. Jimmy Jack Funk was in the WWF, and now he's invading the CWA at the time. So it was a good little spin on that invasion type angle.
I love hearing about good old fashioned territory stories like this, where I mean, at that point, I think Jimmy Jack Funk had been off WWF TV for 5 months, but respectfully, it's not like he was ever positioned as an absolute top guy. So if you didn't see him for a little bit, it was plausible. We know eventually he would be joined by some representatives from the NWA, in theory. Hector Guerrero, Manny Fernandez, Bobby Jaggers. An interesting time, to say the least, back in the dying days of the territory era. What do you think? Creative marketing? I mean, how would you illusionary marketing? What would you call this?
Certainly illusionary marketing, but when you now look, of course we know hindsight's 2020, but look, Manny made a lot of money in the territories. Bobby Jaggers was a territory guy, and I think he was in Kansas City when it closed up shop. And then, him and our man Dirty Dutch Mantell had a run in WCW. So Hector Guerrero, Manny Fernandez, all these guys had good runs in the territory days, and so they just trying to capitalize on the true battle that was going on. Again, blur the lines, make it a personal issue. Well, the personal issue wasn't so much between me and Jesse or Jimmy Jack Funk. The real personal issue going on was the WWF was putting out of business, not just our territory, all the other ones. And so it was a real dogfight. And so when you loop WWF and WCW, and we're the promotion that had been around there in a lot of folks' time as the beginning of time. So that's where the good versus evil came in. And man, oh man, those are some of the first guys, Conrad, and I'm, 18, 19, 20 years old, knowing, okay, I'm in the ring with a man. This ain't no wrestling school. This isn't no simplistic. Let me work some training matches with Akio Sato and him kind of holding me by the hand. I was in the ring with some guys that wanted to get heat. And if they wanted to toss my ass around, they did. They never, no cheap shots, but plenty of potatoes, plenty of, trial by fire. Like Manny was one of those guys that if I didn't have a fiery comeback, he would just, he just keep his heat going and I don't say guzzle you, but he had to, because he was going to keep his heat and he wasn't going to be lazy. Same with Hector. If you didn't show some fight and take stuff in the match, and I'm saying that, no, we're not in a shoot, but you have to really, this is really, really super. This shit doesn't exist anymore, Conrad, because you had to take an aggression to get anything out of it, and that's how you kind of gain respect. And Hector and Manny and Jesse, if they were going to sell for your comeback, you better show some fire and keep it sustained, or they would guzzle you the entire match. And that's, again, this doesn't even exist today.
All right, guys, it's time to enter the room. Dick first. Blue Chew's not just a tablet. It's a cheat code for your crotch that's stronger, harder, longer lasting. Like somebody gave your downstairs a pep talk and a gym membership. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. Sometimes I take a Blue Chew to make standing in line a little easier. Gives me something to lean on. Guys, we're not just talking about performance. We're talking about your legacy or your third legacy. Give her group chat something to talk about. Nothing makes you more of a legend than a little Blue Chew. Go discover your options right now at bluechew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. As always, get your first month of Blue Chew free. Just use the promo code MyWorld at checkout and pay $5 for shipping. That's it. Join Blue Chew's mission to upgrade humanity one thrust at a time. Head on over to bluechew.com for details and important safety information. And a big thanks to Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast. Well, let's talk about what does exist. Sting! I can't wait for us to talk about this, because 25 years ago this week was the very last Halloween Havoc. It was Halloween Havoc 2000, and you found yourself programmed against Sting. Well, you, of course, have heard from Eric Bischoff through the years that it wasn't actually Starcast. That was the WCW equivalent of WrestleMania. I just said Starcast, but it's Starcade. Or slip of the tongue for me. Halloween Havoc is actually what Eric Bischoff considered the granddaddy of them all. He thought that was the real big show. And what's interesting about this particular show is you're not only working with Sting, but this is the match where there's multiple fake Stings. Little did we know years later, one of those fake Stings would wind up being Chris Harris, one half of America's Most Wanted, one of your first sort of marquee tag teams as a promoter in TNA. Take me back to the year 2000. You're working with Sting. WCW is on the downhill slope. Everybody knows it. Everybody can feel it. It's the big show, Halloween Havoc. You're working with the franchise, Sting. Did it feel like you hoped it would?
That's a yes and no. It's like everything that we've discussed here on My World. It was mixed emotions, mixed bag, because I'd been there, returned in October, and so now this is basically a full calendar year that I'd been back in WCW, and like there was no question who the real franchise player was. Yes, Hogan, Hall, and Nash with NWO and the wave that was run and everything that goes with it. But, the boys, the audience, everyone, those were really quote unquote WWF guys. Sting was the franchise player, the guy who was born and raised, if you will, obviously my father's relationship and lineage and heritage and all that kind of stuff. But Jeff, the performer, getting the opportunity to work with Sting in the biggest pay-per-view of the year, Conrad, for the time, it didn't, as me being a heel wanting to climb to the top of the ladder on the heel side, and me knowing, by this, mid 90s, I was like, all right, my ticket is to make everybody around me look better. No matter what, but I'm the heel. I'm the bump taking heel. I'm the guy who gets other guys over. I'll win going up the card, but when it comes time for the main events, I'm doing everything in my power to make the top babyface the biggest, the baddest, and everything that goes with it. So, Conrad, it was huge, which was great. But the reality was, the starting and the stopping of, and we've documented it, Russo in, Russo out, Bischoff in, Bischoff out, Russo and Bischoff together. We're going to go our separate ways. There's going to be a booking committee. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Sting, God bless him, man. The sanity that he kept, maybe he didn't always keep it, but he was really tough. Him being the guy and him being someone that, consistently had to be in that spot. And it was just super challenging. And we did some things in this buildup that were a blast. Like the credit when we went to Australia and those sold out houses and Ricky Morton hanging from the rafters, it was great. But there were, and again, doing, was it 2 or 3 hours of Nitro and 2 hours of Thunder, you had to create so much content for the story, of course. And a lot of times, a Russo go-to would be, maybe over storyline it, over book it, but man, the multiple Stings, and we just did so much in, I'll call it the month buildup, if you will. But that credit card spot we did in Australia was fun. We did a lot of different things in this program that I thought really resonated. It was, for me to get to work against the top babyface, it was big. It was huge in my career.
One of the things you did on the way there was you sort of parodied Sting for all the different iterations and all the changes he had gone through. How fun was that for you to do?
Conrad, when I walked out, look, backstage, when I got painted up and Stinger painted me up, and, he had to haul that outfit from LA all the way to Australia. And so, when I got painted up and walking around backstage, I could have walked past a lot. When I went out and the music played, and the tape shows it, there was a big ass babyface pop until they went, now wait a minute, which is a lot of fun as a heel. So that it was big. The multiple Stings by the time we got to Havoc. And again, that was, I get the storyline and the cadence, but when it came time for the execution of the match and all the different versions and personas, it was too much. But look, hindsight's 2020, but I kind of knew going in, we're probably trying to put 20 pounds into a 10-pound bag.
I do want to ask, these fake Stings that appear that night at Halloween Havoc, for better or worse, a lot of people have always said, oh, this was Russo's booking. I just want to add some context to that. I think Russo went home a month prior. They were in Uniondale, New York, the Nassau Coliseum, September 25th, 2000, where in the main event, Vince Russo beat Booker T to win the WCW title. And when he did that, he suffered a concussion that I think meant that he was going to take a long leave of absence from WCW after that. He really struggled with the concussions, as best I understand. So, from the best of your recollection, was Halloween Havoc and the build with all the Sting parodies and then the multiple Stings that night, was that all the brainchild of Vince Russo and the groundwork had been laid ahead of time, or was that called after he was at home?
Look, you know, we'd have to ask him and maybe Ed Farrar and Terry Taylor, but my best memory serves me is that, and maybe when were the Australia shows? Because there was some success for me playing that role, and I'm not saying that was the catalyst, but there was. I'll just say it was the booking committee, and again, you know,
It
probably
was October 7th to the 13th in
was
Australia.
Australia, and then the actual Havoc was the end of the month, if I remember correctly.
29th.
Yeah. So that kind of success of being a fake, you know, but it goes to, boy, oh boy. Recently the audience of one came up and, you know, but that's why the industry, has always thrived when there's one point person. A committee doesn't work. You can have a team and a group and whatever it may be, but at the end of the day, the buck has to stop with someone who has a vision, not just for a match or one television show, but really the entire 12-month calendar year. But my best recollection was Vince had some input, but the reality was it was a collaborative effort on the booking committee's part, and they probably, one guy had said, hey, why don't we have this, and another guy said that, and by the time it got to me and Sting, look, I'm going to defer to Sting, and if Sting says it's okay, I'm going to go along with it at this point. So it was, again, the reality of WCW in its last, Jesus, I don't know how many years, you know, just the lack of one central figure who had both hands on the wheel and was running the show.
If you had it to do over again, would you have done anything differently with this Sting program? I mean, I know you certainly had matches with Sting and TNA, but in WCW, you know, this was obviously, you know, for a lot of wrestling fans and certainly for the wrestlers themselves. I mean, if you weren't with the WWF, you wanted to be with WCW. And in certain times, you know, people wanted to be more with Ted Turner's WCW than the WWF. And now you're with the franchise. That's just not what they called him, you know, in the dirt sheets. I mean, he really was what WCW was built around during the dark ages. And even when they're battling the NWO, he was the face of WCW. Merch was flying off the shelves. And now you find yourself working a program with him. And I know you would hope that you could do that a few months prior with Hulk Hogan in July. It just didn't work out that way. And now you get Sting. It's third from the top. The main event that night was Chronic versus Goldberg in a handicap match. Go figure. But still, were you creatively satisfied, or did you think there was more to do? There was more to be done there.
Well, no, I was not satisfied, and more to be done would have been, again, hindsight's 2020, do less.
Yeah.
Sting's athletic ability and his, the dude is super over, like Teflon. Like, very few talents come along that you can almost do anything and just stay over. Like, you know, my dad, we used to, hey, Lawler, you can't work with so-and-so too many more times. It's not good for the promotion. You know, Sting worked with up and down and all kinds of different folks, and he still was the man. But this, and it's, we've talked it in so many different ways, but this era, and I'll just say when the wheels started to come off, and we talked about it on this show, when the year over year houses of Nitro, just the bottom fell out, and the substitutions and the no shows and everything that went with it. I think long before Russo came around. You can just kind of look at, okay, and that book that came out, at some point in my spare time, it's probably got some charts and graphs, so there's a way to piece it together. Like what was the real turning point where the bottom started to fall out? But this is the manifestation of lack of leadership. And that's why I was not creatively fulfilled. I don't think anybody was. Just the fact that you just said that Goldberg versus Chronic on Last in their version of the Super Bowl or Stanley Cup or NBA Finals, that says a lot too. It just was not run well. And, people think, oh man, WCW, Ted Turner's going to be around forever. This type of programming tells you, no, it's not.
I know there's a lot of people who listen to this who've decided they don't like Vince Russo. I'm not one of them. I think Russo took a lot of pride and I think got a lot of credit at different times for his ability to write compelling TV that didn't allow you to change the channel. Crash TV is what they called it. So as much as that may have worked, and I think, a certain section of the audience, or how about this, the majority of wrestling fans once upon a time seemed to really dig or be attracted to. I think if there was a criticism for Russo, it's that he never really understood, at least in my opinion, how to build to the big card. Like, how do we build to a WrestleMania and it's mano a mano? Like the WrestleMania that Bruce always gives him a lot of credit for, like where he was kind of the lead guy, was WrestleMania 15. And that's kind of a forgotten show. It's not the best. Now, don't get me wrong, there's crazy visuals. Like we had the fucking boss man hanging from the ceiling, like hung. I mean, that's a wild visual, but as far as the actual matches, there's not a lot that I think people could get really, really excited about. So I say all that to say, I think this is an example of that. Like on paper, I don't think in a million years we would have ever seen Goldberg versus Chronic in a WrestleMania main event. And let's switch that up. As over as, say, the New Age Outlaws were, I don't think we ever would have seen Stone Cold versus the New Age Outlaws at the main event of a WrestleMania. And now you've got two of the biggest, most over acts. But I think Vince understood, McMahon understood, hey, and I know people make fun of, oh, how does it look on a poster? But maybe that's a tired old cliche because it works, right?
Well, Dave, go back to a 2-shot. Kind of, you always amaze me how you weave, and here we go down the show, because I just had this conversation with a mutual friend, and we were talking, and one thing led to another, and he asked me something, and I said, people want to gloss over what the real, like, just get into the DNA of what we're doing in here. And I do think, you said Vince, it takes a lot of bad rap. I think he is a really good, and in a lot of ways, as far as having the title, he's the OG of TV writers in professional wrestling.
Agree.
I think, as far as that. And then for years and years and years and years and years, oh man, who got the book? Well, Dusty was booking. Oh man, the book went here. Well, Bill Dundee went down to Watson. He was booking. So there is a, there is a part of a successful promotion that you got to have a booker. You can call him matchmaker, booker, whatever it may be, but you got to have that role. I do think the magic between Jerry Jarrett and Jerry Lawler was, in a lot of ways, Lawler was a unique, like, hey man, I'm going to envision this match and this match. But my dad he loved to write. He loved to read books, fiction, not fiction, mystery, right. So he had a lot of writing in him. But at the end of the day, and my old man taught me this, but I've studied the wrestling business history. The guy who leads the team is the promoter. And that goes like what you just said. And I think sometimes that's dumbed down. And so I try to stay away from it, but it is what's going to look right on the poster. Like, I think that's where Vince McMahon has no peers. How do you declutter everything, get all the noise out of the way, and take that spotlight and really focus on the only thing that matters? And that's what sells the tickets. period. So I just think there's a role for a booker. I think there's a role for a writer. And I think Vince, sometimes discredited bookers and promoters. And hey, bro, if you can't write, I get it. There is you have to have, but I think you had to have all three. But the promoter, and I think history proves itself over and over and over and over. And the promoter's the one whose ass is on the line. That if it does well, they make money. If it doesn't do well, they lose money. So when your own money's invested, nothing replaces the decision-making ability that gives it to you. I am, every day that goes by, that's, I don't say that. Yeah. That's all that really matters, is what the promoter is putting out front to ring the cash register, or lack of.
Magic Spoon makes high protein, zero sugar cereal and treats reinvented from your childhood. I got to tell you, you can literally taste the nostalgia. Who didn't plop down in front of the TV on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday morning? Mama, get me a bowl of cereal. Wrestling's on. Hey, here's the deal about Magic Spoon. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but how cool is it that Magic Spoon high protein cereal has 13 grams of protein, 0 grams of sugar? You hear me? I said 0 grams of sugar and only 4 grams of net carbs. And how about this? They come in all your favorite childhood flavors too. How about fruity, cocoa, frosted? Does that sound familiar? Yeah, it tastes just like that, except without all the sugar and instead with a ton of protein. Magic Spoon also has these awesome high protein treats you've heard me bragging about for years. They're crispy, they're crunchy, they're airy, and they're an excellent way to get 12 grams of protein on the go. They come in mouth-watering flavors like marshmallow, chocolate, peanut butter, and dark chocolate. Both are great on the go, pre or post-workout, or even as a midnight snack. And right now you can get $5 off your next order at magicspoon.com/myworld, or just look for Magic Spoon on Amazon or in your nearest grocery store. That's magicspoon.com/myworld for $5 off. All right, real quick, I want to remind everybody, especially this time of year, did you know at savewithconrad.com you can skip your next 2 house payments? That's right. You'll get a cheaper monthly payment and no payments until next year. How about a little Christmas vacation from house payments? That's right. No payments in November or December at savewithconrad.com. Let's talk about Bret Hart. It was 25 years ago this week that it was announced that he was retiring from professional wrestling. Of course, that wasn't the original plan, but your great close personal friend Goldberg made sure that he kicked his head into the 3rd row at Starrcade. And that was all she wrote for the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Not only was he no longer going to be able to compete in the ring for WCW, he was no longer going to be able to wrestle at all. He was forced into retirement. And of course, this happens after WCW releases him. And as the story goes, we all know he came over in the year 1997. And I believe he signed a 3-year deal, and then he signed an extension to take him to a total of 5 years. But he never got there because he got injured, and it's cost-cutting time here in WCW. We're hemorrhaging cash. Everybody knows that in the year 2000. So when that happens, WCW contracts allowed them every 90 days where a wrestler wasn't active to go ahead and release them. So my question to you is, you spent a little bit of time in the NWO 2000 with Bret. A lot of people kind of forget this was even a thing, but it was the black and silver, not the black and white, not the black and red, the black and silver. If you're watching with us on YouTube, you see that photo. Kevin Nash, Jeff Jarrett, Scott Steiner, and Bret Hart. And my question is, did you know at that time that Bret was really struggling and he wasn't quite all the way with it?
This is where, I'll call it one of the benefits and the luxuries of doing the podcast. I get the opportunity to go back and really think through, where was my head at? And look, I had a concussion in this same calendar year, but and this is how maybe my naivety, Conrad, just totally, yes, you may have to retire because of a bad neck, or bad surgery, but like the fact of, oh, no, you can't get in the ring anymore because of a concussion. I'm like, that was foreign to me. So, since the day I met Bret, what was it, 91-ish, whatever it may be, Bret's always been laid back. He can be really funny. He can be a dry sense of humor, if you will. Loves to tell old stories, But the fact that, we're in the NWO, and I knew things weren't going right for him creatively on so many deals. And, me and Nash going back years and years and years, look, from the point of where the NWO was at one time, and now it had gone through the red, and then, Hogan in and out. And then, all right, how we, going to get to make the best of it. And they come to me, hey, we're going to do the NWO black and silver. Scott being one of my best friends since 86. Okay, this can be fun. But I knew Bret's head was not into it. But me thinking it's over for him, zero chance. And I didn't know his contractual situations. Of course, the cost cutting measures at this time.
Hey, I don't mean to cut you off, but you said his head wasn't into it. Do you mean like he was loopy concussion wise, or he just wasn't with the creative?
What I mean, just I knew that he wasn't going to be taking many flatbacks, so his heart wasn't in it. I probably rephrase that. His heart wasn't into it. He was injured. He was on the mend coming back, but not a lot of passion into it, which is
He wasn't engaged.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Said better. Yes. But that being said, the cost cutting measures, and when they went into, we're going to take Thunder and now we're going to make it a Nitro Thunder back-to-back taping. Okay. That's a cost cutting measure. That's a red. I'll never forget the conversation Keith Mitchell had with me. I'm like, okay, that's serious cost cutting. Okay. We're doing that. Interesting. But it never crossed my mind that talent like a Bret, we're cutting him. What? But sure enough, that happened without really anybody. And again, we're talking we're years before YouTube and X, and this is internet slowly and the narrative here and there. It was a completely different time. So all that Bret being released and all that, it went so far under the radar of most folks. It happened without a lot of us even knowing.
So you're saying a lot of us didn't know that he had a concussion or that he was cut or either?
Oh, he's cut. Oh, we knew that, his bell was wrong. He had a concussion, but you know what? He'll work through that. He'll be back. Again, we've talked about this in different flavors, if you will, but the thought of WCW going out of business, no.
So when did you find out? When do you remember hearing that they had cut Bret Hart while he was hurt? Or did you ever know that?
I don't think I really it never processed that.
You thought he was home getting paid?
Yes.
Okay.
You know what? Even the summer of no worries, if you would have asked me, is Bret still getting paid? I would have said yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It never.
There wasn't any mutiny in the locker room. That's where I was getting to. That didn't really happen.
No. I mean, Bret was gone. Okay. He's gone. It didn't work out. He's injured and they went their separate ways. That was my understanding. Little did I know.
Do you think that word didn't travel through the locker room because the locker room was so fragmented at that time and everybody was sort of every man for himself?
So, boy, you could probably chat GPT this. How many house shows were run in 2001? Not a lot. And at TVs, Conrad, you talk about an eerie time because, and I'm not going to say nobody showed up because a lot of folks were there, but the tip top guys, they were few and far between, and it just, no. So there were a lot of, okay, let me say this. I wasn't a part of them, and I was damn happy I wasn't a part of it. I had no interest in being a part of, because none of that was positive conversations. This guy getting cut or that guy getting cut or these guys getting, the cost cutting situation and the houses down. It was what an eerie time to be in the business too.
It looks like you had 6 house shows in 2001. That's between January, February, March. So there's only 6 house shows. Every other time there's a WCW show, the cameras are rolling.
Yeah. I wasn't real happy with that because I had it in my deal to be paid per show.
Yeah.
Damn. 6.
It is interesting to think about how different the wrestling world could look like if Bret never came to WCW. Like if he never came to WCW and he stays with the WWE, then he's probably there when Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit get there. He's probably there to help crown Stone Cold at WrestleMania 14 in a rematch from WrestleMania 13. He's probably there to do a match with Kurt Angle and so many others. Like him through the Attitude Era. And you kind of wonder, listen, I hate that my mind wanders this way, but you wonder how that may have affected Owen if Bret sticks around and stays in the WWF. Did you think it would have ever worked, Bret and WCW? Did you think, because famously in 96, when he had offers from WCW and the WWF, Vince McMahon said to Bret, WCW wouldn't know what to do with a Bret Hart. And in the end, he wasn't all that wrong. Yeah. Did you think it would work? I mean, you had seen Bret and you had worked with Bret for a long time. You knew what kind of professional he was and what kind of performer he was. Did you think, given the success of Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall and Randy Savage and all the other guys who had so much success in the WWF, they made it work big time in WCW. Did you think Bret could as well?
I've said it many times. In 96, when I went, maybe, what was it, 2 months in, 6 weeks in, a month in, like real quick. And Kevin Sullivan and him laying out the four horsemen. Hey, Jeff, I want you and Flair, all that kind of stuff. As much as I was motivated and my eyes were like, holy crap, this is going to work out. I was, we've talked about it. I was so damn excited to get this opportunity. But I mean, you talk about the reality, the foundational. I mean, I was just shook to my foundation is that, hey man, we're not in Kansas anymore. This ain't Jeff Jarrett running the show. This isn't Jerry Lawler running the show. This isn't Carlos Colon running the show. This isn't Tenryu running the show. This is a completely different animal. This is corporate wrestling through and through. So if you think you're talking to the boss, try again, pal, because there's no such thing as the boss. I've really had that complete understanding, shared that conversation with my old man multiple times. It's just like, this is crazy. How the hell is this ever? I've never been a part of something like this. And as the months went on and, Flair had his inner ear problem. And then I get told one story, and then Kevin Sullivan's like, well, we don't really know. And let me talk to Eric, but I don't know. Cause can't do, all the different, he said, she said, and this may or may not happen. And not just because of injury, because of the creative, and I can't do this. And the reality is Hogan's got creative control, and what he says, it gets gobbled up into his opponents, and then his opponents, and then kind of the rest of the card. The reality is the rest of the card has to kind of play off the hand. That's why that creative control card, and that's why, Vince, it is what it is. It ain't happening. And so once you kind of start those dominoes going, Conrad, I absolutely knew. Now, was I having a conscious thought, hey, how's Bret is he going to succeed? It never crossed my mind to even answer that. Had you asked me that, I would have said there's going to be a lot of challenges, because he came up in a system that when Vince McMahon made the decision coming out of the steroid that I've got to figure out the new generation, because that is what opened the door. As great of a wrestler, excellence, execution, best there is, best there was, best there ever will be. He thought he's going to win the title against Hogan and whatever mania that was, and it didn't happen. So the circumstances, but he was a tag guy and intercontinental guy. But as far as being the guy, the door was open based off of that. But he was a WWF model that was nurtured and brought, and his promoter, if you will, was Vince McMahon. When he moved to WCW, he wasn't going to have that promoter. And so Vince is, he said that as a quote. They wouldn't know what to do with the Bret Hart at WCW.
That's what Vince told Bret during their negotiations in '96 when Bret had offers from WCW and the WWF. He said, "Bret, this is your home." The WCW wouldn't know what to do with a Bret Hart, and they didn't.
Buddy, you talk about
Prophetic.
prophetic, but as a promoter, I don't say employee employer, but as that promoter talent relationship, throwing all your cards on the table. Hey, pal, I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
There's a lot to that right there. That cuts really. I didn't know that was actually said.
It's a hell of a sentence, isn't it?
Buddy, there's levels of this business that very few people can really peel the layers of the onion back and go, this is best for me to say it right now.
Let's just freestyle this. What if, and again, we're armchair quarterbacking, we're fantasy quarterbacking here, fantasy booking. Bret sticks around and Shawn leaves. Shawn goes to WCW. I think it all looks a whole lot different, don't you?
Oh, shit. The what ifs that you play on here, you know where I thought you were going to go with that? I walked out in 95 into my road. Road Dogg had gone through his issues and this and that. And Vince is calling and they're on their way driving to Louisville. What if I would have picked up the phone? Vince, excuse me. What do you want? Jeff, let's just talk this through. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I know you're pissed off. But why don't you take a downbeat? And you know what I mean? Because Vince knew. Vince knew because, hell, he was, A, a promoter. B, he knew it was on the other side of the fence.
Oh, wait, so hang on. You're saying you feel like on some level, if you would have answered Vince's call in 95, that he may have said something similar to you, like, hey, WCW doesn't know what to do with a double J?
Something along in that vein. Something in that pain of, just that. And, boy, now I'm getting into the, we're getting into deep counseling here. It is knowing myself so much better than I did then. I probably didn't want to hear that answer.
But you would have been a credible opponent for Bret Hart in 95 and certainly 96. You would have been an incredible opponent for Jeff Jarrett. I mean, for Shawn Michaels in 96. And then by the time,
yes,
that's right. And by the time Austin comes in and Foley comes in and Maivia comes in, you're already established. You've been there, done that, almost like a bulldog, except you weren't going to be a tag guy. I mean, because, you were able to, you had this very hateable quality. I mean, every time you and I do an appearance, people come up and they say, man, I hated you my whole life. And then I started. So you would have been a great heel.
Game last night in the concession stand. I got one of those.
I hated you my whole life.
I used to go down to the Civic, blah, 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 whatever. Oh my God, Jeff, I hated Double J. I hated it. And I'm saying that to say, I'm sure Bruce, I'm sure he shared, the Double J persona character. I think Bruce liked it. No, I think Bruce liked it, but I think Vince really liked it because of the emotion that people, it was very hateable.
Yes. You had a very punchable face.
There you go.
And you made a living with that, and it did pretty well. This message is sponsored by Raycon. Raycon's everyday earbuds have become a go-to gift for the holidays. They sound great, last all day, and then some, with 32 hours of battery life, and they actually stay comfortable no matter how long you wear them. Over 4 million people already have a pair, so if you've been curious, now's the time to try them out. For Black Friday and Cyber Monday, you can get up to 30% off all Raycon products, perfect for gifting or keeping for yourself. The Everyday Earbuds Classic are loaded with upgrades. Active noise cancellation, multi-point connectivity, so you can pair with 2 devices at once in an ergonomic fit that actually stays put no matter what you're doing. And man, these new colors are a vibe. How about the cool mint? Roll Tide on that. It just feels less like earbuds and more like an accessory that matches me. And these are everyday features that truly live up to their name. What about the quick charge? 10 minutes gives you 90 minutes of playtime. You can't beat that. And how about up to 32 hours of battery life with the case? even awareness mode. It's perfect when you're out walking the dog or running errands. You can stay tuned in to what's happening around you without ever missing a beat. And did I mention that over 3 million customers already love their Raycons? They come with a 30-day happiness guarantee too. So if you don't love them, returns are easy, so you have nothing to lose. Raycon's going big for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Everything's up to 30% off. Just click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/myworld to save on Raycon audio products site-wide. That's BUYRAYCON.com/myworld. Buyraycon.com/myworld and save up to 30% off. Hey, let's talk about somebody else who did pretty well with a punchable face. So much so that Vince wanted to put a big blue dot over it.
Ooh.
20 years ago this week, Christian leaves WWE. And it was no secret. I mean, I feel like everybody knew this in 2005. When Christian left the WWE, he was going to TNA. And as the story goes, he wanted to prove himself as a viable headliner. He felt like he was never going to get the opportunities he felt like he deserved as a single in WWE. And for better or worse, I think most fans would agree. You know, they saw Edge as the Shawn Michaels and Christian as the Marty Jannetty, an incredible wrestler, amazing bell to bell, but he was the tag partner. He wasn't necessarily the guy. And Christian bet on himself and saw himself as the guy. And I think everybody, himself included, thought, hey, TNA would give him an opportunity to prove that he could be the guy. That's the way we felt as fans back then, Jeff. Tell us about those conversations. Who contacted who first? And did you see Christian as a viable headliner? Did you think he could be the guy and really level up from what we had seen, the opportunities he had in WWE?
And, you know, the pre-Brood days, when Edge and Christian, you know, that they were, those two guys were the ones who were across the ring on Owens' last match. When they were just getting started, I worked with those guys, and you know, they become a tag, and then they're, you know, I'll say kind of coming up through the ranks and doing this, and just the success they were having. In my mind, I wasn't aware of Vince's thought processes on them, that he looked at them, we'll call it as the package, if you will, and that Christian was the Marty. I didn't have that, but Scott D'Amore was the original kind of contact, and hey man, would you be interested? I'm like, hell yeah. Why is he leaving, or what's going on? Well, he's got a ceiling over there, and I'm like, well, that happens. I didn't really double down and try to do too much. Vince, he's a promoter. He has his thoughts, good or bad. It doesn't really matter. It's what he really thought. And so if Christian had hit a ceiling, okay, I'd love to have him over here because he can work, he can talk. He's a ring general. He can make everybody on the field better. The positioning that we were at early Spike days, I'm trying to think when he finally debuted, but I think
you guys had just gotten on Spike. You just started on Spike.
That I thought, my best recollection, the timing of his opportunity coming in was fantastic. Obviously, prior to Kurt, probably even prior to 3D, or right at the same time. So I was always conscientious about keeping the balance of the TNA originals, and you know, by that time, you know, Joe, and we'd continued to build our roster, and you know, 3 Live Crew was in, and so they weren't TNA guys. You could actually say, you know, all that. So trying to keep that healthy balance, but Christian coming in as a single, as Bruce would say, new coat of paint, but we could tell the right story with him. I remember the build, and people wanted me to switch it earlier, but I'm like, man, if we really build this story the right way, then we're going to get a bump out of this and a lift out of this. And to me, I think if you look back on Jay's career, no doubt he had a great early run at WWE, but him betting on himself and then him standing in the middle of the impact zone, winning the NWA world title, I really think you take that of his career, take that moment out of his career, you're looking at a different Jay Riso. I just think that really did a lot for his career.
You mentioned 3D. They were there in late September, and it's mid-November at Genesis when we see the Christian debut. So you've got a lot of momentum. Starting on Spike, you've got the former Dudley Boys, you've got Christian. Was there ever any discussion that you recall at any point about bringing Adam Copeland to TNA?
No, none. But just
even after the injury, even after he retires.
Yeah, not. Oh, and because that came a while later. But I mean, sure, if he would have been available, I'm sure we would have had some type of discussion. But again, people probably don't even realize how conscientious, not just myself, but the entire team, knowing that there's just a healthy balance of AJ and Eric Young and Bobby Roode and Chris Harris and James Storm and all the originals, that you get that thing out of whack, the product has a different vibe. And I think in our most successful years, 07, 08, 09, you kind of look at that healthy balance. And I've said it, there's just a real healthy balance. And then the programming model and the storyline really fit into the DNA. But yeah, so we looked at any and everybody that may or may not be available from WWE, but we had our guided thoughts, if you will.
I, for one, have always been a Christian fan. But I've often wondered, do you think he was maybe a victim of his own success? Like, they were so good as a tag team. And, even so many of my friends, whenever they talk about those guys, respectfully, I don't know why people don't say pepper and salt, but they say salt and pepper. And even when you name those guys, nobody said Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels. They said Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. And they also said Edge and Christian. And, even when they promoted themselves, it was E and C. That's not alphabetical. That's just the way people say it. And it's almost like, man, what does his career look like if there wasn't an Edge? If he wasn't tag team partners with Edge? If that tag team never existed, would he have had more success as a single star? And I always felt like that would be one of those things we would always wonder about. But then I got to tell you, I think Christian has done the best work of his career during his AEW run, years after people had sort of discounted him. Like, as far as the character and having an emotional connection, I know if we're talking about physical prime, we'd be talking about yesteryear. Obviously, I get Father Time does no jobs, but as far as me being invested in the character Christian, I think I've had more of that in AEW in this run than I did anywhere else.
I could not agree more. And I just, talking to my old Canadian buddy, promoter of music, it feels like, I don't know, last month, but we were just kind of talking about different artists. And, sometimes, and I won't come up with the best examples, but just how an artist breaks. Are they in a group? Are they in a duo? Or are they a single or featured? Or is there a headliner artist that puts them out on tour and they just kind of pull them up because they, just different kind of, I don't know how the act breaks. It's all just kind of timing, and there's nothing that anybody can do. And this is for better or worse, and it's up to those guys, but I don't think you can think about Edge without thinking about Christian and vice versa. They are forever linked. I think that's a good thing, but I think both of them have worked their ass off. And this is where, to me, hats off to them. They've really worked their ass off to have a unique identity and personality. The Toronto Payoff, that match started the show, in so many ways, it kind of had that bite, if you will, that here's two singles. As much as you want to say two guys coming home, it was really two singles that got to tag up one more time. Pretty cool.
I know you don't want to give everybody's private business here, and I appreciate that. So I'm just going to ask it as diplomatically as I can.
Here we go.
Did the real life Jay Resso take a pay cut to come work for TNA?
Oh, well, he would tell you that.
I guess what I'm getting
I
at
don't know
is
his offer, but to me, it is without question one of the smartest moves he ever did because he knew his ceiling. There was no hidden agenda. I'm going to be in Vince, the boss's eyes, second fiddle, regardless of what I do here. Edge ain't leaving. He's my best bud. We came into wrestling school together. But at the end of the day, they're going with this horse, whether I agree with it or not, or whether Edge agrees with it or not. And so, and I'd say, I can't think of one. So I'll say 100% of every conversation I would have with guys is that I'm never going to be able to match dollar for dollar, but I can assure you I'm going to outrank an opportunity, period. You wouldn't be talking to me if the opportunity exists for the other guy, period. I can give you the opportunity. I think 3D is a perfect example. That they knew their opportunity may exist, but to really create the legacy that's going to make money for 30 years, 35 years, you got to bet on yourself. Those guys did it. Christian did it because that is really
I don't mean to correct you, but respectfully, 3D didn't have an offer from WWE.
okay.
3D needed to go to TNA or Japan.
Okay.
But Christian,
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not saying that to be ugly. I just want to be factual.
Yeah.
But one of the things I wanted to circle back on, and I know people are going to jump on me for this, and I don't care. Get it right in the tweet. It's like, hey, it's Conrad. Christian, in some respects, was like the original Cody. Cody had a huge guaranteed money contract with WWE, but he didn't want to do Stardust anymore. That's where Vince and the writers saw him. He tried to have multiple conversations with writers. They were more interested in having conversations about who was hot in NXT or whatever. And he thought, man, nobody gives a shit. I only care. Only me cares about me. I got to go, as JR might say, learn a new hold. And he bet on himself and he left. And a lot of old timers would say, oh, don't be a mark, kid. All that's real is the money and the miles. You're here to make as much money as you can. I get that. But sometimes in life and in business and in wrestling, you got to take one step back to take two steps forward.
Oh, you ain't kidding.
And I think Christian did that. And I think obviously Cody did it. Now, I'm not saying it's the same thing. It's totally different circumstance and the results are different. But I respect the shit out of Christian saying, you know what? Fuck you. I'm right. You're wrong. And he did that to Vince McMahon. Like much. And I'm not saying he went on TV and broke the throne and all that silly shit that Cody did, but it wasn't that far off, was it?
No, he said, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
I'm going this way. And 06 TNA is a lot different than 09 TNA. I'll say that.
Yes.
Yes. So, and also the image that I always have when I think Christian / TNA is when the ring filled up with fans and he won the title. That was a real feel good moment that he would never get anywhere else. And so, what made the hit, the song or the singer? I think they both came together. And so I agree. I wholeheartedly agree that he bet on himself.
I'm a huge Christian fan. And I wanted to ask you, did you see at the time, obviously you said the timing couldn't have been better. We're fresh on Spike. We've got Team 3D and all this. Did you think he would be a game changing star for TNA? I'm going to stop short of comparing him to Kurt Angle or something like that, because we realize, he had achieved more success as a single. He had main evented WrestleMania respectfully at that point. So I'm not saying that Christian was necessarily that, but did you view him as, hey, he's one of our top guys? If you make a WCW analogy, he might be our Lex Luger in that he might not be in every main event, but he could be.
So the question is a game changer. I think I can be a play on words. Coming from the school, I'll say, of kind of the old promoter mindset in that there's only one Jerry Lawler. And as much as my dad thought of Bill Dundee and his in-ring ability and also his booking ability, he let him go. And so that is kind of the school of thought that Christian is going to make everybody better, and he is a top guy and can work with anybody. But I certainly wasn't going to go as far as to Bob Carter and say, Bob, I need extra money. I need this. I need that. Kind of like I did for Kurt. Man, he can be the face of the brand. So I'll say stop short of the face of the brand, but a top guy gonna mean a lot to us. I think Christian, knowing that I knew him from almost day one at WWF, is that he can help a lot of young talent, and he did. He worked with a lot of different guys. Good for the locker room. Good conversations. Hell, just look at his run. I mean, and when I'll never forget it, Bound for Glory weekend in Chicago, Dixie wanted to talk to him, and we've talked about that. When it was time that I knew in his heart of hearts, when we meet Dixie in that's the Hyatt in Chicago, right there by the O'Hare Airport, had that conversation. I didn't even try to sway him. I didn't put on a song and dance. I knew in his mind, mission accomplished. I'm going to shake your hand as a business associate in that you came and you put all your effort into it. You got what you wanted. We got what we wanted. And I know you want now the opportunity to go back on the WWE stage and in a way say, hey, F you guys, I'm back and I'm better. And now you're going to get the opportunity to book. And, that I knew that was in his heart. And I was happy for him to do that. But yeah, so hope that answers your question.
I want to ask you, and then we'll move on from Christian. You and I had a conversation once. It was around the time he debuted in AEW, and I talked to a WWE Hall of Famer who said, hey, Christian was never the attraction. He was the opponent. And he was saying that about the way AEW had presented him. And I remember when I said that to you, you said something along the lines of, so was I. And I thought that was so cool that I had never really heard that until that guy said it to me, like the attraction versus the opponent. But you immediately not only recognized it, but identified with it. What are the intangibles and what are the things that you see as a wrestler and a performer like Christian that add value? What are his biggest strengths as a performer, as a promoter who's booking a card and running an organization? Certainly we're going to have the Stings and the Kurt Angles. Those are the attractions. But man, I think criminally underrated sometimes are the opponents, because you've made the analogy on this podcast before that Larry Bird made everybody around him better. And I think that may be the secret sauce of being an attraction at a high level for decades, like Christian has been, or the opponent rather. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, boy, I'll use the Larry Bird analogy. Larry Bird tell you take a Robert Parrish and you take a Dennis Johnson and Bill Walton as a 6-man, or Kevin McHale, take any of those opponents or team players. I think that's another, opponent, team player. If you're talking about in the movie star world, supporting actors, actresses, all that, you take them out, there is no lead. There is no there is no main event. There is no slot for a Sting or a Jerry Lawler or a Stone Cold, because everybody plays their role. And without them, you just truly don't have the type of product that is sustainable. You may get by one night. You may get by maybe 2 nights. That third night, when you don't have the glue, that's why I put a high value on play-by-play and color. I put a high value on the person who sits in the chair, who's the executive producer, who's putting the show together and the shots and the ins and the outs, not just timing it. That really makes things come together. I put a high value on a really good ref in the main event match. All those kind of things that you go, oh, there he's just a ref, or oh, he's just the opponent or the support or the team player. You don't have it. You don't have a show. You just don't. And that's where when you see a guy like Sting, who had a retirement match at 62, wasn't he? Sting is a guy that was well aware through the years that if I don't have this big support group around me, I don't really exist. There is no such thing as Sting the Icon. So I just put the value on that in so many ways. And look, we talked about Jeff Hardy a couple of weeks ago. Can anybody put their thumb on why the hell does he sell so many tickets? You can't really bottle it up, but he is an enigma. Austin timing. He was the $1 million guy, or Stunning, and this and that. Right time, right place, right promo, right work ethic. But man, oh man, look at his opponent. You can't manufacture the timing of Vince McMahon coming back behind all that. It all goes together. I guess what I'm saying. We're all a piece of the puzzle.
Man, I love bragging about Tushy. By now, you know, I've got these on every toilet at my house, but we just recently moved offices here in Huntsville. Buddy, I got them on the office toilets now. That's right. Not one of them, all of them. I'm a big believer in Tushy, and I know you will be too. Tushy is the everyday luxury bidet that instantly transforms your bathroom habits and your bottom health for life. 99% of people who wash with the Tushy Wave feel cleaner and fresher after going to the bathroom. Who the hell feels cleaner after the bathroom? Tushy knows what's up. Tushy Wave instantly modernizes your daily routine and your bathroom with a super sleek seat plus 2 separate front and rear nozzles for the most complete clean. It also has the new soft close lid that's slam proof for a gentle, luxurious finish. I want to mention too, every single Tushy bidet easily attaches to your existing toilet without the need for additional plumbing. This is daily decadence with practical benefits. Over half the people who wash with Tushy soothe their hemorrhoids, and 9 out of 10 people reduce itching and discomfort. Instead of just wiping endlessly with toilet paper, Tushy pristinely removes 99% of bacteria, but it also does it with just one natural ingredient: fresh water. Installation is so fast, it only takes about 10 minutes to complete. Literally anyone can do it. That's how simple it is. I'm a big believer in this product, and I know that you will be too. People who've made the switch to Tushy use up to 80% less toilet paper. That means less clogged toilets and no more wasting money on something that does an inferior job cleaning your body. Not only that, but every single Hello Tushy bidet comes with a 30-day hassle-free return policy. And check this out, a 12-month warranty. Remember, a-hole is only a dirty word if you wipe. For a limited time, our listeners can get 10% off their order at hellotushy.com. Just use the promo code MyWorld at checkout. That's right, 10% off your first bidet order at hellotushy.com with the promo code MyWorld. That's HELLOTUSHY.com, hellotushy.com, and the promo code is MyWorld. Hey, just in time for the holidays, what if you didn't have to worry about any of that credit card debt? If you're feeling stuck making the minimum payments and you don't want to have to put Christmas on a credit card, we can help at savewithconrad.com. We routinely help our listeners save hundreds of dollars a month. Find out how much money you can save right now for free at savewithconrad.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's time to count down the top 5. Brought to you by savewithconrad.com.
Let's jump into it. Jeff's top 5 TNA originals who changed the game. Coming in at number 5 on Jeff's list of the top 5 TNA originals who changed the game, James Storm, the Cowboy. I just saw him last week at your big show, the Pig Fest, your first and only time wrestling in Hendersonville. Why does James Storm come in at number 5 on TNA originals?
Oh, Conrad, this top 5 list, I played with 20 names, and right to my right, there is a memorabilia piece that Don West put together of the TNA originals. And I'm going to read it left to right. Amazing Red, Storm, Harris, AJ, Shane Douglas, Christopher Daniels, Abyss, Eric Young, bottom right, Road Dogg, Russo, Mark Johnson, Mike Tenay, Don West, Dixie, myself, Borash, Rudy, Raven, and Andrew Thomas. That was kind of the nucleus, and there's a more give or take, but man, Conrad, that's the memorabilia piece that was so, but me trying to come up with a top 5, and I threw some honorable mention in there, but this was a really because the way it was asked to me in research, tell me the top 5 game changers, in your opinion, of the originals in TNA. So I kind of wrestled with this. But when I broke it down, James Storm is the tag guy, heel or babyface, the original, that he was, and we're talking day one. He was on all the
Huntsville show. He was in Huntsville.
I mean, episode 3, 6, 9, those early years. So those, and his ability, and he still has it. The concession stand brawl. A couple of my banker buddy friends, Conrad, their kids absolutely ate it up, and it's that emotional engagement that the Cowboy brings to his matches, and so that's why I started with him at 5.
Coming in at number 4 on your list of top 5 TNA originals who changed the game, Jeremy Borash. I love this one. Love me some JB. I know he's busier than ever these days with all things NXT and certainly AAA, but this guy wore every hat there was to wear. I mean, he was there before TNA even existed during the Summer of No Worries, right?
Yeah, and that's where, there it is documented to a certain degree, but when you really, the game changers, okay, he lived in Atlanta at the time, and he would drive up and stay a couple of days at a time at my house, and we'd ride jet skis and have different conversations. And he's the first one I told. I said, hey, man, Toby's my buddy, and I think I can get him for the first show. He's kind of inkled at it and said, yeah, do it. But what happens if I did this deal and he suplex me and I get him to hold me up there and we get that photo and we can service this and service that? But anyway, there's all kind of stories I could tell you about JB, but he wore, I think he's the modern day Mean Gene, because you can't put your thumb on. Why is Gene so good? Well, Gene can do your own promo, his promo, the talent's promo, sell something, also get some things. Anyway, JB is a student of the game, respect and love the dude. But man, oh man, the amount of hats he wore in the early days, from editing, there's just so many things. I could talk a while, but I know we need to keep this top 5 list moving. But JB, he could have been even higher. I mean, it's subjective, but yeah, JB at number 4. I thought that may put a grin on your face, because I had to get out of the box thinking, because game changers, but Borash, pull him out of the early days, and I'm talking about even the early before June 19th, 2002, our first show. TNA may look a lot different. So JB at number 4.
I got to say, there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast who hit you and I up on a pretty regular basis. They want to do something in the wrestling space. And I don't know that Jeremy has enough time to listen to our podcast every week anymore, but I routinely say, do what Jeremy Borash did. And they say, what's that? And I said, fucking everything. Like, that dude was editing videos. He was doing ring announcing. He was trying to promote. Like, he's coming up with creative, the whole Hardy's Broken Universe. He did post-production. I mean, he helped book. Like, was there anything that he didn't do? It feels like he was the jack of all trades in TNA.
In early days, he would throw a name by me, and he knew how to speak Jeff, and I learned that early, but I would learn, okay, now he's pitching me talent. Now I got to put my radar. But anyway, I'm going to go back to it, and I say in seminars, I got a guy email I'm exchanging with, and I said, hey man, this seminar deal it's not a money deal. I'm going to spread the word. And the main thing I want to tell everybody that walks through the doors, if you're doing this for fortune or fame, if you're doing it for money or glory, get out. You've got to love it. Those will come if you're successful, but you better love it. JB loves it like I love it. He really does.
I got to ask, you said he spoke Jeff. Have I started to learn how to speak Jeff?
I'm going to literally log off right now if you asking me that dumb question.
Coming in at number 3 on Jeff's top 5 list of TNA originals who changed the game. I love this one too. Mike Tenay and Don West. Your announcers, man. Let's hear about it.
Look, there's a lot of things, when you are a young entrepreneur, and my dad so many times, he just wanted no part of any decision, because he's like, Jeff, I'm not in it day to day. I wasn't at WCW week in and week out. I wasn't at, he really stepped out of the full-time wrestling is when he got in his BMW and Beamer and made that trip from Connecticut, Stanford, and drove straight home to Hendersonville because he was done. Now he consulted for WCW, but he wasn't on the road. But when he came home, that was really his last day to day. And so when we were starting, he was there. We've talked about it, some financial support. I took the lead on that, but sounding board and wisdom. But when I started throwing some ideas about the color commentator and the play-by-play, he just kind of tapped out. And so I really thought that through in so many different ways. And the decision that I made, Mike, knowing that we were going to have lucha style and Japanese style and this X division, I needed somebody to really articulate, not about weight limits, about no limits and all that. And Mike's wealth of knowledge, his passion, everything, it became a no-brainer in my brain, but I was like, okay. But having that and growing to the relationship that we still have to this day, but I love the dude, but man, super, super talented, and it just fit the mold. And then you talk about flipping the switch and saying, I've got to get outside the box. And coming off of Monday Night Wars and Ross and Jerry Lawler, and me being so close to Jerry and understanding his skill set and knowing, he's a heel color commentator. And you think about Jesse the Body, you think about Bobby the Brain. And so to have somebody in that heel vein sit down with Mike, they didn't exist. So I'm like, all right, I'm not going that route. So what route am I going? Do I put another play-by-play guy? And that'll be repetitive. And then it just, in a lot of ways, I'm like, man, this needs to be somebody that is really the voice of the fan. And I don't want to say a cheerleader, but I knew the AJ Styles and this X division that I was going to be really leaning into. I needed somebody to be able to sell the death-defying, risk-taking emotion that it would be. And I'd known that, hey man, Russo and others in WCW had kind of floated an idea about this Don West guy who sold shoes and that. And so I ended up having lunch at the Cooker in Nashville with Don, and loved his personality, loved his enthusiasm, kind of loved his raw honesty. Like, Jeff, I'll give it a shot, but I may be the absolute shits because I just don't know. I said, don't worry about this. I need you to really speak from the heart and all this kind of stuff. And when me and my dad got back to the parking lot for that lunch, and we were in separate cars, and my old man said, shit, Jeff, I love that guy. He's money. And it caught me so off guard. I'm like, wow. All right, J-Dub, little man. Jeff Jarrett already gave Don a vote of confidence. But just that combination, when I think about how they literally ingrained in the fabric. So from 2002 to 2009, I think they are a massive part of the success.
I love your number 2 on Jeff's list of the top 5 TNA originals who changed the game. Another guy behind the scenes, Mr. Keith Mitchell, another guy who I feel like just does not get his credit in wrestling. Like, he did it for World Class. He did it for WCW. He did it for TNA. And respectfully, everyone always talks about Sahadi, or they always talk about Kevin Dunn. What about freaking Keith Mitchell? I'm glad he's on your list at number 2.
Well, I mean, you left out AEW. I mean, when you really think about, there just, and if Vince, and one day you'll interview him, I bet, just throwing it out there. But, if you're to interview Vince McMahon and he's going to say, hey, Vince, I'm not talking about ideas or concepts or business decisions or whatever it may be, but let's really drill down. Who has been the most important figure in WWE success through the years? I don't think he would hesitate to say, well, it's KD, because he takes my vision and gets it out there. And Keith, old Texan, worked for Fritz Von Erich, ran camera and worked his way up, and then got the call and went to Atlanta and did the exact same thing from WCW Saturday Night to Nitro and Thunder, and all the success of the NWO and everything, everything that goes with the product of WCW television. And Keith survived in a corporate wrestling environment, which is a freaking miracle, the success he had, because he had multiple bosses. He had creative bosses. He had corporate bosses. He had sponsor bosses. He had I mean, Keith Cool Hand Luke, I've called him off and on through the years. And then when I got the opportunity and knew I was starting this, drive down to Atlanta and have a meeting with him. And he's probably looking at me cockeyed like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But he got on board, and my guy, I mean, just no, there's no if, ands, or buts about it, that when you're sitting in high level meetings, trying to make things happen, and you know, you're looking at a Kevin K at Spike TV and go, okay, so I see the gray hair dude over here, and he's been promoting wrestling, his family has, since 1946, and here's this guy Jeff Jarrett and this and that, and Scissor Reel, and okay, we're taking this and that. Now, who's going to actually be this executive producer or producer of your show? Oh, it's the guy that did every episode of Nitro. It's the guy who did every episode of Thunder. Oh, it's the guy who actually was in around before that. Oh, okay, they know what in the hell they're doing. His experience is an intangible that paid multiple dividends. It is. And then you'll say with Keith brings, okay, he's going to make the director feel confident and good shots. And then the director's going to make, you know, not just camera 1, 2, 3, and 4, but 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and end zone and drops. Oh, wait, so audio, we're going to light it this way. Oh no, man, the guy, like, you talk about the guy who literally keeps the train on the tracks and keeps everyone motivated and keeps things positive and just heading down that track. When I look at TNA, you unplug Keith Mitchell from that formula. I don't think that, I'll say this, I don't think you're talking about TNA in 2025 if you don't really have Keith Mitchell sitting in that seat in the formative years, because the brand has been through hell and back. But at the end of the day, something was done right from 2002 to 2009, 10, before Dixie made the dumbass decision to say, hey, we're going to call it Impact and get way out of TNA and all that nonsense. That brand was really built between 2002 and 2010, and Keith Mitchell was a massive part of it.
All right, you know we love Mando on this show. We've talked about it for a long time, and right now, especially more than ever, you know, here in Alabama, it's cold in the morning and it's hot in the afternoons. We call it fall, but listen, what it really means is we're outdoors a lot. Football season, yard work, maybe some hunting trips, and staying fresh all day long, well, that can be a challenge unless you have Mando. From your pits to, well, everything else. Mando high performance odor control and sweat control actually lasts all day. Forget all those colognes that just mask the stink. Mando will help you block the odor before it even starts. It's one stick that does two jobs. That's coverage through double overtime games, that weekend project, even those extra long pre-holiday shifts. You're good. It's not magic. It's science. I'm a big believer in this, and I know you will be too. I want you to try the new clinical strength sweat control. It's like double coverage. It's at least twice as good as any other deodorant you've ever tried. It'll control both sweat and odor for 72 hours. And after 12 hours, your underarm sweat will be reduced by 92%. You see, Mando is deodorant that was re-engineered to stop odor before it even starts. It doesn't just mask the odor, it prevents it. And 100% of the study participants experienced all-day odor protection. Mando has premium ingredients. It's not loaded with all those other chemicals. Mando uses mandelic acid. It's gentle mandelic acid that keeps you fresh and dry. You're going to love this, and I want you to try it. Start with the Mando starter pack. It's really perfect for new customers. You'll get that solid stick deodorant from your underarms, but you'll also get the cream tube deodorant for everything else. That's right. That cream tube deodorant is what Dave Silva puts on his asshole, and you can too. Well, not his. Put it on your own. You know what we're talking about. You even get 2 free products of your choice. I recommend the mini body wash and the deodorant wipes. Plus, they got free shipping. Right now is a special offer for our listeners. New customers can get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. Just use that code MyWorld at shopmando.com. You'll get 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. That's shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Mando's got you covered with deodorant plus sweat control. Say goodbye to sweat stains and say hello to long-lasting freshness. Coming in at number 1, probably to no one's surprise, of the top 5 TNA originals who changed the game. He's calling it a career next year. He is the phenomenal AJ Styles. This is probably the biggest no-brainer in the history of our top 5s, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, a kid from Georgia, North Georgia, a landscaper, had a wife in school. Thank God she was, or AJ might have gone up to Cincinnati, but he wanted to make his roots and stay there with Wendy and start their family, and bought in. And then me and him had the working relationship in the ring, and he becomes the Grand Slam winner, and just just the continual. But at the end of the day, the changing of the game, if you will, is that the comments, well, who is an AJ Styles, or what is an AJ Styles? But he's the guy that literally everything was built around from the day we really started the company. You can go back and look at X Division champion, and he's a tag, and he was obviously a heavyweight champion. So AJ is the OG game changer. And yeah, it was no doubt a no-brainer to put him at number 1.
You've got a couple of honorable mentions I know you want to shout out, and I think we both agree on these. Rudy Charles makes your list on the honorable mentions list. I know that some might say he's not a real referee. You and I disagree. Why is Rudy Charles on your honorable mentions list?
Buddy, his in-ring ability, it goes without saying. Look at him. He's a senior official. Well, I can't diss Charles, but he's right up there at the top at WWE. So his in-ring ability goes without saying. And there's a funny story we'll tell maybe on next week about his refereeing ability, but that goes without saying. But Rudy started off, and Conrad, you're a office guy, and you've got your team of 8, 10, 12, and maybe more, maybe less during the ups and downs. But when you have somebody not answering the phone, how productive can you be? Rudy's first job truly was J Sports and Entertainment. This is Rudy. How can I help you? Rudy started answering phones and then worked his way, and he was the point person in the creative team of all notes, administrative. Super organized. There's no way I could have done what I did, especially when, Jill got sick, and the different pressures of wearing all the different hats, and for not just, the notes and the communication over and over and over. Rudy is, I cannot thank him enough for all he did for the company in those early years.
We want to mention another name on the honorable mention list, one that I wouldn't have guessed would be on the list. Richard Scrushy. Chat me up about Mr. Scrushy.
Well, come on now. As much as I love a good idea, and the little engine that could, and put my own money up, and my dad chipped in, without Richard walking into his office and, hey man, here's an idea, and him going, here's the green light, Jeff. Let me know when you need more, or if you need more. It doesn't happen. TNA doesn't exist truly without Richard. And so how can you not put him on the list? He's without a doubt a game changer, Connie.
Last but certainly not least, and I know this is a kind of a no-brainer, but I'm glad to see you acknowledge it. Dixie Carter makes your list of honorable mentions.
Yeah, and look, there's so much said these days, maybe good or bad, our relationship, whatever it may be. But when you really drill it down into it, I go to her before I started the company, and I knew I needed a PR rep who really wanted to be a bulldog, if you will. And that's her. I was so freaking impressed in our first meetings that, hey, Jeff, look, I'm used to doing country music, and I've done crisis management and PR. Little did I know we would need any or all of that coming up. But her ability to kind of dive into a product she had no idea about professional wrestling, took it to heart. I'm going to take the account and dug into it. And then it goes without saying that, and I think sometimes people gloss over this, in that, we started in June. Richard gets we get the call about Richard in July. And so you go through the months of August. And so I'm going to her to let her know, hey, not only did we get the call that we can't pay going forward, but we can't even pay for last night's show. So I'm letting you to know, if you want to bail on us now, I totally get it. But I'm going to go raise capital somehow, some way. Her taking that conversation 2 or 3 days later, hey, Jeff, do you have any pitch materials for a financial? Yep, I've got it. Got it. Hey, Jeff, I know it's Labor Day weekend, but do you think there's any possibility that you could come out to Dallas and pitch the Friday before Labor Day weekend? Yeah, we go out there and we do the pitch meeting and flew out on miles, and we get sent home in the company jet. It doesn't happen without her saying, hey, Bob. She would call her dad Bob in business settings. She wouldn't call him dad or father. She'd call him Bob. Hey, Bob, I think this is an opportunity you ought to at least take a hard look at. And so how do you not put her on the list as well?
Well, that'll do it for Jeff Jarrett's list of the top 5 TNA originals who helped change the game. We want to know from you, who would you put on your list of the top 5 TNA originals? Let us know in the comments below, and we will take a look at those. Be sure to check us out on YouTube if you haven't already. It really does enhance the experience. myworldpod.com. Hit that subscribe button, throw us a like button, hell, throw us a dislike button, but leave us a comment. It really helps the algorithm, costs you absolutely nothing. And I encourage you to hit the bell. Every now and again, Jeff finds himself backstage at an AEW show and says, Silva, let's go live. We found some people who want to chat a little bit. This weekend, everybody's going to be chatting about Saturday night's main event, Jeff. We've got Jey Uso and CM Punk for the World Heavyweight title that was recently vacated by Seth Rollins. Lots of rumor and innuendo that maybe Jay's going heel. If you had the book, who would you put up? Punk or Uso?
Oh, it's a good question. I hadn't had enough time to process that. Yeet. No, I'm gonna go with
You'd
Punk.
go Yeet? You'd go Uso?
I'm gonna go with Punk.
Why Punk?
Circumstances have fallen into place. I think it's the hand of fate has been dealt to Punk. You never want to lose momentum, and this is my philosophy or inside baseball. I don't think you ever want to lose momentum. And when you have a guy like Seth go down, what's the best pivot to try to keep momentum going? I think you got to go with Punk because of that.
We'll talk about it next week here on the show, the good, the bad, and the ugly of professional wrestling. We've also got some news about WWE and life after professional wrestling. We'll talk about all that and more next week right here on My World. If you haven't already, I want to encourage you to check out adfreeshows.com. That's where you can get more Double J than you can shake a stick at. We've got more than 100,000 hours worth of bonus content there. And right now, we're giving you a very special limited time offer. If you go to adfreeshows.com and you use the code TOPGUY75, you can get 75% off your first month as a Top Guy. And in the coming weeks, we are going to announce what I believe will be our best live event yet. It's going to be happening Royal Rumble weekend. We've not yet announced exactly where, but if you're a Top Guy or you want to be, I would recommend that you take off that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and make plans to be out of town, having the time of your life. Double J knows some of the things we got up our sleeve. He can't wait. I can't wait. And we want you to join us live and in person. It's adfreeshows.com. Use that promo code TOPGUY75, and we will see you next week right here on My World.
Peace.